Lagos State has announced an 8-month phased rehabilitation of the Lekki Ajah corridor, one of the busiest and most economically significant routes on the island. The project aims to manage traffic disruptions while addressing long-standing structural issues on the road, with businesses, residents and daily commuters already preparing for the impact. The conversation now extends beyond construction timelines to what this means for mobility, productivity and future city planning. Jide Benson joins us to break down the broader implications of this major rehabilitation effort. Jide Benson is a public affairs commentator. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. We've gone through the intentions, right, of this rehabilitation, but from your perspective, what does this tell us about Lagos's approach to managing transport, major transport corridors?
Well, the first thing I'll say is that they left this a little too late, and then the timing is what has been the greatest concern to a lot of people. However, I think a decision has been taken, and one must at least give kudos to the government for meeting with the stakeholders, the people who will be most affected by this planned 8-month rehabilitation work. I think a fortnight ago, there was a meeting with people along that axis, business owners, CDAs, transport unions, and what have you, because they are the people who apply our routes on a daily basis and will be the most affected. And what that seemed to have done is to prepare their mind for what is to come. What has been of greatest concern is that this is happening at a period when Lagos gets extremely busy on account of what we now know as Dirty December. Already before the meeting and before these announcements, a lot of plans have been afoot and alive as to what people are going to do. You have to factor in the fact that that entire axis is very commercial. When you talk about things like short-let apartments, when you talk about things like Carnival, the Lagos Entertainment Week, which is happening on that axis, and all whatnot. So people are going to have a hard time while all of this is going on, especially because of this first month or first month and a half when it's going to take up. So my counsel would be that whilst this is going on, the stretch of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road that has been completed can be opened up to ease the stress that people are going to go through.
And I mean, that axis is perhaps not as commercial as the Lekki Ajah corridor. You have highlighted the timing, its peak period. Some have said the timing is off if they can push it a little further. But how do you see this practically looking and imagining, what they're going to do? They've said they'll open one lane or so. How do you see this influencing economic activity and business confidence within that axis? And how should businesses adjust to this announcement?
It's definitely going to take a toll on business. Definitely. And it's not just business. The people who live on that axis, the people who worship on that axis, the people who commute through that axis to go to work or to go home and what have you. So it's a whole value chain of the people that it is going to affect, which is why I recommend one of the things that they could possibly do. Now, by the time one hopes that the project managers, the contractors, the government people, the security agencies, and the traffic managers are working their butts off at this time so that by the time it eventually kicks off, I think it was supposed to kick off on November 15. I don't know whether that has happened now because I've not gone on that axis in the past 2 days. So what has happened, the first few days would determine how well this is going to be, how much of a success this is going to be. It is also possible that if the government sees that the tension and the stress is going to be a lot more because of the timing where it is commencing, they could consider a postponement. What is important is that road needs to be worked on. And there's never a perfect time, but I'm not sure that Dirty December or the Yuletide period is a great time to commence such a thing. They could also have factored in the fact that because Lagos is going to witness a lot of influx, there's the optics that they want people to come to go away with when they're leaving Lagos, so that Lagos does not get reported in the news for poor infrastructure, especially on that axis. There's going to be influx from abroad. There's going to be influx from another state, from several other states, because there's a whole lot of entertainment and end of year activities that is going to happen. And so it is possibly on account of that as well that they want to make the roads a bit more motorable.
Right, and speaking of impressions that this will leave on perhaps visitors and tourists in Lagos during this season, there are those who have said that perhaps this is coming up now because they want to leave a good impression that the state is working. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I wouldn't say that Lagos is not working. Lagos can work better, no doubt. But to say that Lagos is not working is not something I would agree with. There's a lot of comparison of Lagos states with other states. I do not agree with that because that would be comparing apples with a fruit that is much less. In terms of management, I think Lagos is several years ahead of several other states. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead. It points to...
Yeah, it points to add would be that information management is going to be very key at this point. So the government's media is supposed to be awash with information as to what is happening on that portion of the road almost every time of the day. So they probably need to do a special edition on Lagos traffic and encourage a lot of people to tune to that station to get updates of what is happening, so they know what times will be best times to move on that road during this period.
Yes, and I think the bigger question is why now, right? And some are saying, do you think this project perhaps highlights any gaps in Lagos's long-term mobility or urban planning strategy?
As I mentioned earlier, there's never a perfect time to do some of these things. They must start anyway. I also do not feel that this is a perfect time, but as they say, they are the ones who are the managers and they know what is best. There's also always a funding challenge. So possibly it is now that resources are available to earmark for that thing. I wish that this had been done in portions, in bits, and so that it doesn't have to cause the kind of inconvenience that people are anticipating, because the word out there is that for 8 months, that means from November to July next year, there's going to be a lot of apprehension because schools will go on holiday, schools will resume, schools will go on holiday again later in April, and schools will resume. And of course, you know that when school is in session, that's when there's the volume of vehicles and movement on the road increases. So I share those concerns as well, but we should also give them an opportunity to test the waters, and I hope that when they do commence this project and see that the negatives are more than the positives, they can reschedule it for another time.
And that other time, when in our calendar, do you think would be the best time to have begun the execution of such a project?
I think that portions. Okay, so sorry, I forgot to mention something. So what may also be happening is that they have said 8 months with the intention to finish it in 4 or 5 months. And I think that's a better way to manage people's expectations, so that whilst people have 8 months in mind, at the end of 4 months, they could say, oh, the project has been completed. Because that is what I noticed that happened with one, I think it was the Ogudu Axis, sometime last year. They finished it far less. I think they finished it in about 70% of the time that was estimated for the project. Now, to answer your question about when would that next time be, as I said, there's no perfect time. Maybe what they should do is to portion the roads, not a whole stretch from Lekki, from Lekki 1 to the second toll gate, and then from the second toll gate all the way to Ajah, which is why I mentioned that the coastal road, the portions of it that has been completed, can serve as an alternative route for people who are heading from Victoria Island to Ajah, and then they can reconnect to the Lekki Expressway at a particular point. That way, the traffic is diverted. The focus is not on the Lekki Expressway. The Lagos-Calabar, thankfully, a portion of it has already been commissioned, and there's no reason why it should not be put into use already.
Right, and beyond the repairs, let's look at the opportunities that this period and this rehabilitation could create for Lagos, especially when it comes to rethinking or recalibrating its broader transport system. So what are the opportunities here?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, so we're looking at the opportunities during this rehabilitation period, beyond just the repairs and the inconvenience it may cause. What opportunities does this period perhaps create for Lagos to even rethink, recalibrate its broader transport system?
Okay, so in terms of opportunity, I think the first thing is that it's going to create jobs. If you cast your mind back to our elementary economics, where we were taught labor and employment, seasonal employment, cyclical unemployment, and what have you. So a lot of people are going to be put to work at this time, whether they're bricklayers or the people carrying the pans and what have you. So that is definitely going to happen. So it's going to create some jobs for the people, direct jobs, and of course indirect jobs. Because whilst the laborers are at work, there will be several other things happening. People will be selling food. People will be selling things that they need. So that is one aspect. It's going to create jobs over the next 8 months or for the duration of the project. Another thing is that it's going to, when certain portions have been completed, it is going to ease motoring. And that's something that a lot of us often forget, the amount of time we spend on the road. When roads have been rehabilitated, many times we forget that we used to have a harrowing time. So that's another opportunity. And the third opportunity is the one I talked about before, which is the optics. We want people to come visiting during the dirty December, enjoy the creative economy, enjoy the entertainment, and not for them to go back with the traffic, which is a regular feature in Lagos State, right. And one of the major contributions to.
All right, it was interesting getting his perspective.
The optics, okay, and I can't remember what thought when I said no.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your perspective and insights on this conversation. Jide Benson, Public Affairs Commentator.
For having me.
A pleasure.